check the records, you can check anything. He was the first African American, first to actually promote, market, announce, distribute Nike materials, which were sneakers, in the 70s. And did an excellent job. Everybody was touched by Mr. Harold Bell. And he also had the story of where we were in the 70s with Nike. And he can talk about, and we will be talking about, where we are in 2018. Mr. Harold Bell, welcome.
Thank you, Lavonia. Thank you. Glad to be a part of your show. I'm happy to hear you that you have a show, girl. You come a long ways.
I'm just trying to follow you. He also, Harold Bell was one of the, for me, he was the first, in Washington, D.C., one of the major markets, he was the first to have an African American, way before Will Barnes, way before any ESPN. ESPN did not even exist. And he had Inside Sports as a sports show. And in fact, the FCC was talking about, we need more sports shows and all these kind of things. That was the discussion back then. And Harold Bell had the first show, and he had the first opportunity to introduce the Nike. Why don't you give us a little history on you and Nike's relationship, how it started?
Well, Lavonia, when people start asking me about my history and about who I am and what I've done, I tell them today, just Google Harold Bell. That's because my story is unbelievable of who I am and where I came from. I come from the outhouse to the White House, and I did it without pom poms. 50 years working in the streets with youth gangs and at-risk children. That's what I'm most proud of. I'm a pioneer in radio and television sports talk shows. Every radio and television sports talk show you hear today is a copy of the original Inside Sports. I am the original Inside Sports, and when I started, how I got Inside Sports, I was talking to my wife one night and tell her I was getting ready to do this sports talk show on WOOK radio, and I needed a title. And right out of her mouth, she said Inside Sports. I said, Hattie, how you come up with that? She said, well, you get all the inside information from the players, from the politicians, and everybody else. So that's how Inside Sports started in 1970. And my attorney was a young brother from Detroit named Derek Humphreys. That was my attorney. And right away, Derek told me, he said, Harold, you need to trademark this name because it's going to be hot. And I didn't listen to him because I'm ego tripping about being on the air. So the things that I've done has been remarkable, and the people that have come through me, including Lavonia Perriman, reads like a who's who in media.
Absolutely. I thank you so very much for that. And Derek Humphreys is an attorney. Derek Humphreys is part of a family of 12 children, and at least 5 of the 12 are attorneys right now. Right, and the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren are attorneys. I mean, so it's a family of attorneys. And guess what? So with everybody, you guys, Sarah already knows this. And what's his name? Chris Humphreys, who married one of the Kardashians. Yeah. He's from Detroit. Yep. Right. His family is from Detroit and Chastity, and Derek Humphreys is his uncle. And this is actually, I'm going to tell the story now, and you can probably add to it. Everybody can go, why was the Kardashian only married to Humphreys for 72 days? Because of Derek Humphreys, his nephew, his uncle, he stopped that. Because what they were trying to do is, one, take his money. This ain't nothing I made up, because I was there. It's not right. But they were trying to, so the mother of the Kardashian says, hey, Chris, here, give me your money, and I will buy you a house. And I'm going to buy it in California. Chris said, oh, no, I live here in the Midwest. And that's where I and my wife are going to live. He said no, and he said no, and so, and then she said, well, you got to take care of your wife, and so I'm her manager, so I will manage your money and her money. And Derek Humphreys, the uncle, said, oh no, we manage our family's money, and we manage everything. So that's something, he saved his Humphrey's heart, and he saved his job. And he saved his credibility. I mean, he was about to go down the tubes, he looked very strange on the air. want to take all their money anyway. Well, I'm saying, no, this is ready to take Congress money. The alien got us. Yeah, you might get a little late for that. No. I'm going to move on here. You heard me. I told you. Kanye, they already have a friendly back. I promise Kanye does me the work on the alien. I promise you. I have told them that Kanye West is broke today. No. And they're going to take his heart, his soul, and his money. But anyway, Harold, tell me, how did you get involved with Nike? I know the story. I want our listeners to know.
Well,
lead into this 2018 conversation.
Well, what happened is Sonny Hill. I don't know if people remember Sonny Hill. Sonny Hill was a broadcaster for the NBA. He was a color analyst. Okay, Sonny Hill. I don't know if you guys remember Sonny Hill, but Sonny Hill was with the NBA as one of his first color analysts on NBA basketball. And Sonny was like a mentor to me because this brother was a playground legend in basketball. He had his own radio show. He was on CBS doing NBA basketball on the weekends. And Sonny and I were really close because I used to take a lot of kids up to Sonny Hill's basketball camp in Philadelphia that he and John Nike had together. And I took, kids from the playgrounds. In fact, Lavonia, I took little Alfred, Kathy Hughes' son, up to Sonny Hill's basketball camp, down to Winston-Salem with Earl Monroe and Big House Gaines. Well, one summer, I was up at Sonny's camp, and this brother, John Phillips, was there from Nike. And Sonny introduced John Phillips to me. John Phillips was the head of Nike's NBA basketball program, putting the sneakers on NBA players. So when he met me and found out that I was in Washington, D.C., he said, Harold, how would you like to be the sports and marketing rep for Nike in Washington? I said, why not, man? So he hired me. And my job was to put Nike shoes and apparel on the in crowd. I'm talking about the athletes, the entertainers, the politicians. That was my thing, to put Nike apparel in my car and just ride around from playground or my celebrity fashion shows or my celebrity tennis tournaments. I was the first brother to have celebrity fashion shows with guys like Earl Monroe, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sonny Hill, Freddie Scott from the Detroit Lions. All of them would come in and play my celebrity tennis tournament and my fashion shows. And that's how I became big with Nike. In 1979, I think it was, 1977, I signed with Nike. And then, of course, John Phillips had been taking the NBA ball players on, charitable games in their hometowns. And Michael Thompson, he had taken over to the Caribbean islands, because that's where Michael was from, to play a charitable basketball game, and Magic Johnson was a part of that. Well, when they brought me aboard the following year, the NBA commissioner, Larry O'Brien, when John asked to do the same thing the following year, Larry O'Brien said, hell no, you can't take the players. So Phil Knight gave me and John Phillips. Phil Knight was the owner and CEO of Nike. And when Phil Knight found out what was happening, he gave John Phillips and myself permission to go up New York and sit down with the basketball brass up there to find out why we couldn't take the ball players across the water, wherever we wanted to take them. And of course, in that meeting was Gary Bettman. Gary Bettman was the legal counsel. He is now the National Hockey League commissioner. There was Ron Thorne, who was vice president of player relations. And there was a black brother by the name of Horace Barnum, who was in charge of security. Well, the first thing John asked Ron Thorne, he said, what's the problem, man? And Ron said, hey, we're going to have some problems, man, with security or players getting hurt. So John said, hey, hold it. NBA black players have been playing in all-star games for decades on playgrounds every summer, and there's been no problem with them getting hurt, seriously injured, or anything. So anyway, I looked at Gary Bettman. I said, do you have a problem? And he stood up and said, yeah, I got a problem. We own the players. I said, what? You own the players? Are you saying that these are slaves? Are you saying that?
Wow.
Well, all hell broke loose in that room, and Ron Thorne ended up jumping up on the desk and say, "Take a time out, and we'll come back and talk about this." And they never came back to the room. They never came back to the room.
Never came back.
Magic Johnson and Michael Thompson, they disappeared because the NBA put pressure on them. So that's what happened. Phil Knight been standing up for a long time. When he gave John Phillips and I permission to go up there to talk with the big boys in the NBA, I knew that he was about human rights and civil rights.
So the few nights that we know of and the action that he has taken with Colin is something that's normal for him. It's something that you would expect him to do.
Yeah, I expect him to do it because of my early experiences with him. See, what folks don't understand is Nike already got their money. He knew exactly what he was doing. Like you said, this
Right.
cat, the Cap had been under contract to them for years. So when he saw the opening there, he took the opening. He don't care enough about them burning up the shoes. Them fools want to buy shoes and burn them up. That's on them. But Nike kicked the NFL to the curb. He kicked corporate America to the curb. He kicked Trump to the curb. He kicked the NFL owners to the curb because now he's corporate America himself. So what can they do to him? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Hey.
That's something. So what is the conversation among the players about the situation with Nike, Colin, but more about Colin's position? What's
Well,
happening inside?
well, let me tell you, Lavonia, I've been talking about the slave mentality in the NFL for years, for over 40
I know.
years, and calling it, the Super Bowl the biggest plantation there is. Now, what has happened? These black ball players, man, they're gonna look like a bunch of cowards now that Nike has come to the forefront. Colin Kaepernick has taken the knee. And there are only two players that have taken the knee since the league. I mean, since the NFL season has started. Something is wrong with this, man. We got a bunch of cowards and selfish ball players who don't want no sacrifices. After Jackie Robinson, Jack Johnson, Paul Robeson, people who went before them sacrifice. These guys, all the thing they care about is themselves and that paycheck. And that's why we can't move. They had the owners locked in, man. That first year when they took a knee, the owners didn't know what to do. They had them. All they had to do was set out one game, and them owners would have come to their knees. Now, what the owners did, they gave them a big bunch of money between the players. As soon as they gave them that money, they had conflict. Every time there's a dollar bill, when it comes with us, we cannot figure out how to use them. See, too many of us don't handle success well. And that is what is happening in our community now. We got people that don't stand up, who don't stand for anything. And we have to watch our backs.
So you're saying that they have put money in front of these players, and so some of them who might be in support of Colin and the mission and the issue, they have kind of moonwalked on the issue.
Yeah, what happened? The NFL owners put up something like close to $900,000 for the players to use in programs in the community or whatever they wanted to do. And there were two factions of players. And what happened? The brother Malcolm Jenkins and a couple other brothers had met with the owners, and there were some brothers who were not in on the telephone conversation or the meeting. So they got, a little pissed off. Hey man, how y'all gonna make a decision and we weren't there? And that started the ball to go in the opposite direction. Several of the guys quit the coalition. Malcolm Jenkins stayed around, and it just turned into the same old thing. Us not being able to go behind closed doors and look each other in the eye and deal with each other. We're not able to do that. And right now we're finding that we're headed in a no-win situation. If these guys don't stand up and say what's really going on, because every time, not only Trump has changed the conversation, but we got the media that's changed the conversation and saying, hey, man, this is about the flag. And we all know it's not about the flag. But they keep carrying us back to that same place about the flag.
But you know what? And it's so important to have people in the business like Regina, Mr. Nice Guy, yourself, and others. And you have a story where you were Inside Story, Inside Sports was the premier and only show in Washington, D.C., heard in Maryland, Virginia, and D.C. And that was stolen from you. I mean, because, as you said, they know we're talking. We have a platform. We can change the dynamic. And I always encourage people to get involved in the media, be a part of it, because that's where decisions are impacted by people who are speaking the truth.
Well, man, let me say this. I got to say this, man, because we're missing the boat, man. What folks don't understand, especially black folks, we don't know our history, man. We don't know our history of police brutality in our communities. It all started back in the slavery days. When slaves would go on the run, they get dogs and they get the whips and they catch up with them and they lynch them. You understand? So now when we move into the modern day, that same type of mentality moved into the police departments around the country. The Ku Klux Klan is in police departments around the country, and you know what it is today? It's the FOP, the Fraternity Order of Police, are running departments around the country. And if we don't start at the top, I mean, we got to start at the top, man, getting rid of these Uncle Toms who get in position but are scared of their jobs. And we got a lot of great cops out there, black and white, but the cowards are running the police departments around the country. Anytime you gonna have a cop go in somebody's apartment, and all they had to do was look at the mat on the floor, she should have known that was not her apartment. Her apartment don't have a red mat. And she go in there and talk about put your hands up, some police. Man, are you crazy? You in my apartment? And she killed this guy. So what are we talking about? You know, the same this stuff. Lavonia. I've been working with police. Okay.
Hold on, don't lose that point. Don't lose that point. We gotta go to a hard break. But I want to let you know we're talking to Mr. Harold Bell, who is our original person, original in terms of sports news and information, and he was there way before you bought your sneakers. He was the person, he was the spook that sat beside the door, and he was part of the promotion of Nike from the very beginning. We're talking about the 1970s. 1970s. I mean, I was born in the 70s. You know what I mean? This is 9:10 a.m. Superstation. We'll be right back with an hour after these messages. With almost 700,000 residents depending on clean water, we deliver. We do it every day. We're the Detroit Water and Sewage Department working for you. We like helping people. We like solving problems. We're making a difference because this is our city. If you have a water question, call us at 313-267-8000. Enjoy the clean water our employees deliver to you every day. It's what we do. Clean water delivered.
In my story.
Hi, I'm Herman Moore, three-time All-Pro Detroit Lion and partner of DSG Staffing. And I'm Fred Harris, founding president of DSG Staffing. We want you to be a part of our team. If you're a CDL driver, welder, or CNC operator, we want to meet you. We're building a team of all-stars, and I want to know if you can make the cut. If you're dependable and willing to put in some long hours for a good day's pay, then I'll have one of our recruiters call you and put you to the test. We want you to be a part of our team. Sundays on 9:10 a.m. Superstation is a collection of personalities like none other. Different names, different voices, but the same energy. Arise and shine. So your life is perfect. This is Elena Herrera. Morning, this is Robert Dow. The final call hour with Troy Muhammad on 9:10 a.m. We got the topics, the guests, the opinions, and the facts.
Hello, this is Angela Moore. Please join me for 3 to 5 p.m.
p.m. Be sure to catch Doing the Deed with Alexander Sanchez from 5 to 7 p.m. This is your girl, Technically Up on the Leah Live Show. Detroit, this is Michael F. Motown, the Advocate Network Show with Master Mo, a.k.a. the Street Preacher, a.k.a. the Street Sweeper, from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina, and join me every day from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. for Please Fill and Thought. It's right here on 910 a.m. Superstation. We are the future of radio. 910 a.m. is the gold standard for talk radio. It's raw, uncut, and untamed. So I'm telling you, when I stayed in Detroit and started to hike for 9 years, my water bill for a year was $132. $132. $130 original salary. It's down like now. My water bill every month is $2 a month. But you know, Michigan, it is right in the middle of the Great Lakes. You figure that the greatest source of fresh water on the planet. But Michigan, the highest water rates in America for poison water, and they're threatening to cut off the poison water to some of America's poor folks anywhere. It's in Michigan, and folks there are shell-shocked, quite frankly, by everything that's going down. And here in Detroit, water shut off. Nearly 20,000 slated to go down shortly, and what happened? Hepatitis. And there's a direct connection between water shut-off and the increase in hepatitis, and we take it. 910 a.m. Superstation. We are the future of radio. The future of radio. We are. Who has the hot takes and best call? And where do you go to get the breaking news and expert opinion? Well, they look at the latest news headlines at the top of the hour. None other than 910 a.m. Superstation. We've got you covered from sun up to sundown during the week. With Greg Davis. Hey, this is Mr. Greg Davis. Kerry Jackson. Nolan Finley. Jack Lesenberry. Nicolay Thompson. The Reverend Al Sharpton. Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton's time. And Sam Riddle. And don't forget to listen to Enrique, Elena Herrera, and Angela Moore. Hello, this is Angela Moore. Please join me on Empowered every Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. It's the greatest collection of minds on radio, and they can only be found in one place. None other than 910 a.m. Superstation, the future of radio. 910 a.m. Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen. 910 a.m. has something that no other station has. A platform for everyone to have a voice. Black, white, young, old. It's a place for people to be themselves. I love 910 a.m. So many articulate and thoughtful, diverse voices and wonderful stories. So when you think of 910 a.m. Superstation, we want you to tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media. Stay up to date with current events and breaking news on our Facebook page. Search and like 910 a.m. Superstation on Facebook, and you'll see everything new, everything exciting, and all things Detroit. 910 a.m. Superstation News on Facebook Live right now. We're the hottest station in town. Whatever you need, it's right here on 910 a.m. Superstation. The most powerful voices in the urban community. You are listening to 910 a.m. Superstation. The future of radio. You are listening to 910 a.m. Superstation. The future of radio. WFDS Lawrence Hills, Detroit. 910 a.m. Superstation, a division of Adele Media. Are you ready for this? Every day at 4 p.m. in the evening here at 910 a.m. Superstation. I am Lavonia. And yes, this is the Lavonia Fairfax Show with Gina Strong and Mr. Nice Guy. And our very special guest, Mr. Harold Bell. When I think of Harold, I think of community involvement. I think of, all the things that he has done around the country, but really coming in on Washington, D.C. I mean, if you wanted to make something happen with already there making things happen. And we're talking from the 70s on. I mean, this is something we continue to do, regardless of who was in charge, regardless of what corporation is there or not there. But one of the people really, is in a boost at that company, giving Colin a boost, is Nike. Welcome back, Harold.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for having me. And let me let you know something too. I'm recording you guys because you're gonna be on Legends of Inside Sports, my YouTube show, and I'm recording you guys so you'll be able to pick up the show tonight when I put it up. Also, I want to plug my new book, Lavonia. I have a new book out called Harold Bell's Legends of Inside Sports. My walk through sports history with champions and chumps. Well, let me tell you about some of the folks that come out of Detroit that helped me. That helped me. Yeah, the people that come out of Detroit that helped me. When I started working with youth gangs in the late '60s, we had a gang shooting at Spingarn High School, my high school where I played, everything, football, basketball, and baseball. And I was working with youth gangs when we had a shootout after a basketball game. So my boss in the DC Recreation Department said, Harold, that's your territory. You got to go out there and see what you can do, calm things down. So I went out there. Them youngsters wasn't listening to me. So I said, man, what am I going to do? And it hit me that the NBA All-Star game was being played in Baltimore. I said, hell, Dave Bing is from Spingarn. He's from D.C. Let me go over to Baltimore and see if I can run down Dave to get him to come to Spingarn. So that Saturday morning, I drove over to the Baltimore Civic Center and sat outside and waited for the players to go into practice. And sure enough, here comes Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. So Dave said, Harold, what the hell are you doing over here, man? I said, man, we got a problem in D.C., man, and I need for you to come in on Monday morning and talk to these kids, man. They talking about, getting revenge and everything, and I can't do this by myself. He said, no problem. I'll be there on Monday morning. So after the All-Star game on Sunday, we at Spingarn, and who shows up but Dave Bing? The place was packed. All the kids were there, and when he walked in, they gave him a standing ovation. You say, wow, how did that happen? Well, they had just seen him play in the NBA All-Star game that Sunday, so they were real proud of him. So he came in and said some words of wisdom and calmed everybody down. That was my first pro athlete that I brought out into the community. The next pro athlete was Wooly Wood. Everything you guys seen that the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League doing in the community, it all started here in Washington, D.C. with Dave Bing. Now, he got a lot of flaws. He got a lot of problems, but he was one of my first guys that I brought out. And in Detroit, guess who else I brought out? I brought out Freddie Scott, Dr. Scott. He was a wide receiver for Detroit. He would come into D.C. Prentice Bird with Kronk Jim, Emmanuel Stewart, Tommy Hearns. Let me say, my homeboy Marvin Gaye, Earl Lord, all them people supported Inside Sports, and that's who I am today. Because of people, anybody that knows how to get in touch with Prentice Bird, he's in LA now, or Freddie Scott, please tell him to contact Lavonia, because those two brothers I owe the world to.
When we come together, it's always been a plus. Harold Bell, meet Regina Strong. She is my co-host here every Wednesday for the business and politics of sports. She is the ex-wife of Mr. Freddie Scott.
You lied! You lied! Whoa!
We'll have to talk about that up here.
That is oh man, Dr. Scott. Oh, at the fashion shows, tennis tournament. Oh man, come on. Ain't that something? Wow. Man, that is. I got pictures of Freddie in the fashion shows, in tennis tournaments, everything, man.
Wow. This is an amazing. She is sitting right here, and he was kind enough to join join us as special guest, just last week, and he is committed to being on at least once a month.
That's my man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my man.
He's in the ministry. Yes, in Arkansas. In Arkansas. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. It's great to bring you guys together.
Oh, man. Wow.
See what her schedule is and see if we can make that happen, that you guys can be on with Miss Regina Strong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Oh, this has been worth the price. This has been worth the price.
Absolutely. Because I want to ask you a question before we close out, and we're going to close out about 8:20 for our next break. Where is Colin going with this? I mean, does he have a life in football? Does he have a career?
Who is that?
Does Colin have a career or a life in football?
Well, I don't think he has a life on the playing field. I think his life on the playing field is over. But you know what? He has made an impact that only people like John Carlos, Tommy Smith, Jack Johnson, Jackie Robinson. He has that kind of impact on the community now. And wherever he goes, he's going to get support. Now, still, we got a lot of frauds out there pretending that, Jim Brown has completely sold us out. Jim Brown, my man, Lavonia, he has completely sold us out. Jim Brown is worth $50 million. I couldn't believe that. Now, all the things that Jim and I done in the community, he ain't been doing nothing but hustling pro athletes. That's what he's been doing. So we got to be careful of those folks like Jim Brown and make sure that Colin Kaepernick is protected, man. We got to. He don't have a life in football no more. He doesn't need football anymore.
He's transcended it, I believe. Isn't that interesting? He doesn't need football anymore. That's interesting.
No, he doesn't need football anymore.
Right.
No.
Right. Absolutely. And you know what? I wanted to go back a few years, about 40. And when you started Inside Sports, it was the only one, and someone found, like Colin, they found out that it was the hottest thing going before ESPN. Mm-hmm. What happened? I mean, the big boys came in, Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
Literally created.
Hey, look.
That's a real story.
Hey, look, when you talk about the big boys, you're talking about Muhammad Ali, my main man. You're talking about Muhammad Ali, Red Auerbach. We're talking about Bert Sugar. We talking about Jim Brown. We're talking about George Foreman, man. So many. And look, the athletes that came through me, and Lavonia, you can verify this before we go off. These are some of the guys that came through me before their 15 minutes of fame. John Thompson, Sugar Ray Leonard, James Brown on CBS, Kathy Hughes, Radio 1, Adrian Dantley, Adrian Branch, Michael Wilbon, Dave Aldrich. All them folks came through Inside Sports and Kids in Trouble before their 15 minutes of fame. I gave John Thompson his first 5-minute promo every Monday when he went to Georgetown basketball to be the coach at Georgetown. He could not get any play in white media. I gave him 5 minutes to promote Georgetown basketball. Once he made it, guess what he did? He hired a white guy to do the play-by-play. Sugar Ray Leonard didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. When he came home from the Olympics in 1976, he thought he was coming home to a ticker tape parade because he had just won the gold medal. Well, when Ray Leonard came into Washington, to Glen Arden, the media gave him the blues for having a baby out of wedlock. So he went in the house and would not come out of the house. I'm down Anacostia playing tennis one day, and who do I see outside the tennis gate but Dave Jacobs and Jinx Morton, his trainers? I said, what the hell they doing down here? They don't play no tennis. So I went outside. They said, Harold, you got to go over and get Ray to come out. He done lost all his self-esteem. I said, what? He said, he won't come out the house. The next morning, I went over there and knocked on the door. He opened the door with tears in his eyes. I said, man, I can't tell you what I called him. I said, boy, you better get on your suit and put that gold medal around your neck. I had made arrangements for him to go to one of my elementary schools to talk to the little kids because I knew those kids didn't have the same hang-ups and jealousy as we adults. So I took him to the school and started taking him all around the city. I brought him on my show. I was the only brother that had a sports talk show. I made him co-host. Ray couldn't even put two sentences together. You hear what I'm saying? Couldn't put two sentences together. And my wife and I, when he and Juanita got married, we gave him a book called Book of Leaves, and it had poems. I told him to read out loud to himself so he could sound and look more learned. Now, Ray Leonard became the first $100 million boxer in the history of professional fighting. And guess what? How many kids he came back to help? Not one. Not one kid in trouble. Didn't never come back on my sports talk show. So that's the kind of things that we got going on in our community that we'll keep being sold out by the likes of John Thompson, by the Michael Wilbons, who's a big liar, by James Brown, who's nothing but a Tom. James Brown is a Tom. That's what he is. He ain't trying to help nobody.
James Brown. No.
Oh, he's a Tom. I'm telling you.
Right. No.
Tell him Harold Bell said it. He got my number.
I know. He's a very good friend of mine.
Well, I'm telling you now. Hey, Lavonia, let me tell you what Earl Lord said. Y'all all know Earl Lord, the first black to play in the NBA. He was on John Thompson's show one day, and they had him on there. So they brought my name up, trying to get Earl say something negative about me. He said, well, let me tell you about Harold Bell. Harold Bell may be controversial, but I've yet to hear anybody call him a liar.
And Harold's a tremendous guy. And I just want you guys to know, Harold is about 20 pages of pictures, quotes, it's documented. And then, of course, I experienced it. I watched it unfold, and I was in the room. I was in the room with, Sugar Ray Leonard. I was at the Fox Trap. Fox Trap was like the place to go. And just so you know, and Fox Trap was a very, how can I say, it was exclusive. And I'll never forget how they would, literally, you could go to the door, and it depended on who you were.
That's right.
Yeah. But you had to do, Lavonia, you got in. I didn't even know. I said, what happened? I did.
Hey, gang. Hey, no, I know you guys got to go, but I want to leave you with this one thing about Muhammad Ali. This is one of the greatest brothers to ever walk the earth, as far as I'm concerned. I was supposed to go over to Zaire to the fight, and I went up to Chicago to sit down with Muhammad Ali because he asked me what did I want to do. I said, man, I want to do a one-on-one interview with you, man. He said, okay, we can do it in Zaire. I said, huh? Zaire? He said, yeah. He said, fool, I'm going over there to fight George Foreman. I said, okay. I said, but man, I am not going to no Zaire because I'm scared to fly across the ocean. He laughed at me. He called me all kinds of names. I said, I don't care what you call me. I am not going to Zaire. He said, okay. So that night, we get ready to head back to Washington, and we have dinner, and he pulled me aside. He said, okay, since you don't want to go to Zaire, when I get back, after I knock out this sucker, when I get back, you will be the first one to interview me. You hear what I'm saying? Now, Muhammad Ali says all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So I ain't paying no attention to him. I went back to D.C., and I went down to Constitution Hall to see the fight on closed circuit. Me, Roy Jefferson, his wife Candy, and my wife Hattie. And y'all know what happened. He knocked Big George out in the 8th round. He stunned the world. Stunned the world. I'm lying in my bed 5 days later. It's raining like hell outside Lavonia. Rain bouncing off the windows and rain. And the phone rings. I'm sleeping. And I say, who's calling? He said, I want to speak to Harold Bell. I said, man, who's calling? He said, fool, this is the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. I sat up straight in the bed. I sat up straight. I said, hey, champ, what's happening, champ? He said, you still want to do that interview? I said, yeah, man, I want to do that interview. He said, well, I'm in New York. He said, get your camera crew and meet me up here Monday morning and we do the interview. I was dead broke, y'all. I had no money. I had no car. I said, oh my God. So I called Rodney Brown, who was my partner, went to Chicago with me. They were doing a PBS, a Black History show at PBS. So I called him. I said, Rodney, guess who just called me? He said, who? Muhammad Ali. Oh, fool, ain't no Muhammad Ali called you. I said, man, he just called me. He said, well, what's the problem? I said, he wants to come up to New York in the morning and do that interview. He said, well, let's go. I said, man, I ain't got no money. Payday ain't till Friday. He said, look, Harold, I got a credit card. Will got a car. And PBS got the cameras. They, they met me, look, they met me at my place in Southeast at midnight. We rode up to New York, got some coffee and donuts, and went to the hotel, and I called the room. And Muhammad Ali picked up the phone. I said, man, I'm downstairs. He said, come on up. I'm on the 7th floor. We got up there. The elevator was open, and there he was standing in the middle of the hall combing his hair. He said, boy, didn't I tell you what I was going to do to that sucker? I said, man, come on. I did one of the greatest interviews y'all ain't none of you ever seen because I copyrighted it before they tried to steal it from me. You hear what I'm saying? I copyrighted it. Muhammad Ali sold his rights to his likeness and name for $50 million in 2007. But guess what, gang? They don't have no rights to my interview. And they're hoping that I die so they can steal it. So when you start talking about Muhammad Ali and everybody say Muhammad Ali, look, that was my man. You understand? And I miss him. I love him and I miss him. I ain't got 2 cents. I ain't got 2 cents right today. But you know what? I am a proud black man. They say, Harold, you don't know your price. I said, they can't buy me. I'm not going to sell out nobody. It's just for a dollar bill. And that's why I'm where I am today. And I am 80 years old and I look 60. Peace of mind. That's what it's all about. Peace of mind. You cannot buy peace of mind.
I got the pictures to prove it, and I'm just so thrilled that you're able to take the time to check in with me. It's been way too long, and remember, this is only the first time. This is not the last time.
Okay, baby.
I'm going to make sure, Mr. Nice Guy's going to help me make sure that Mr. Freddie Scott.
Yeah, that's my man. Yeah, Freddie Scott and Freddie Scott and Prentice Bird, man. Those brothers, man, helped me tremendously, man. I'm telling you.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
So very much. And let's be in touch, okay?
Okay, baby. Enjoyed it. Bye-bye. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was Lavonia Perman in Detroit, Michigan, on her sports talk show. And I made a connection tonight because it looks like I'm going to be able to get in touch with my main man, Dr. Freddie Scott, number 87 of the Detroit Lions. Man, I mean, Freddie and I had some great times, man. When I start thinking about the people out of Detroit, like Emmanuel Stewart, Tommy Hearns, man, that Crunk Jim crew, man. You know, I had a brother that was the FBI director in the office in Detroit named Wayne Davis. Bad brother. We met during the 1968 riots when I was working the streets, and Wayne was working as an undercover FBI agent. Well, Wayne and I became great friends. You know, we became great friends, man. And I watched him move up the ladder, and he went on to Detroit to become the FBI director in Detroit. And I went to Detroit, and I introduced him to Emmanuel. Tommy was fighting that guy for the championship, Cuevas, for Pino Cuevas. I was up there that week, and Emmanuel gave me some tickets, and I called Wayne. I said, Wayne, I got some tickets to the fight, man. We're going out to see Tommy fight tonight. And I called my homeboy, Marvin Gaye. I must have called 8 numbers for Marvin. I couldn't catch up with Marvin. So we went to watch the fight, and Tommy took Cuevas out, man. But getting back to Wayne Davis was the brother that pulled my coattail to ask me to tell Murray Berry to step back. He said, tell Murray Berry to step back, man, because we coming after him. Well, I went up to a place called Faces. Lavonia know exactly what I'm talking about. Faces Restaurant. This is where all the in crowd hung out at. So I went up Faces one night, and William Stays was Murray Bird's security guy that drove for him, a DC cop. So I went over to Stays. I said, Stays, I need for you to go in there and tell Murray to come out. I need to talk to him. Stays in, asked no questions. He went in, brought Marion out, and Marion called, "What's up, Harold? What's up, man?" I said, "Look, man, I don't care what you're doing. You know you're all right with me." Yeah, I said, we got our problems, but you're all right with me. I said, "Man, look, step back." I said, "Man, they're coming after you, man." He looked at me. He said, "Harold, I got everything under control. I appreciate it, my man." He went on back in the restaurant. Stays looked at me. He said, "Harold, you can't do no more than that, my brother." And sure enough, before the year was out, the bitch had set him up. I got to give Murray credit. Before he went to jail, the last show he did was Inside Sports on a Saturday evening. My roommate, Dr. Arnold McKnight, the late Dr. Arnold McKnight, we played football down Winston-Salem together. He was the DC boxing commissioner. He called me that morning and said, "Harold, Murray want to come on your show." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." And Murray came on the show. And he told me, off the air, he said, "Man, I should have listened to you. I should have listened to you." So yeah, man, my life has been fantastic. I've been blessed. I mean, you see behind me, that's Lavonia right there, right under Muhammad Ali's picture. I was trying to find a picture to put up of Lavonia. I was surprised that she was going to be on the Legends of Inside Sports. I enjoyed doing that show. I hope I don't get her in trouble because she know I'm gonna tell it like it is. Whether it's James Brown, Michael Wilbon, John Thompson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Kathy Hughes. I had Robert Hooks on the other night. The former Emmy Award winner, actor, producer. They were supposed to be doing a tribute to him here in D.C. this weekend, but there's a state of emergency because of Hurricane Florence, and they called it off. But I was talking to Robert, and we was at the end of the show. He said, "Harold, man, I know your impact in the city." He said, "Man, you tell the truth. Sometimes it's a loud truth." I said, "Robert, let me tell you something. The truth is always loud. I don't care if you whisper it. People don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear the truth as long as it's about somebody else. They don't ever want to hear the truth about themselves." And that's what we got going on in Washington, D.C. Over in that corner, you see my brother, he was a cop. A stand-up brother that did not allow other cops on the D.C. Police Department to take advantage of the community. And he had to face the thin blue line. All that negative stuff, man. I had a brother that was a U.S. Marshal for 25 years, my oldest brother. So when you start talking about law enforcement, I've been out in the community with him forever. I done did law enforcement forums. I just did a couple of years ago at Ben's Chili Bowl. I know all y'all heard about Ben's Chili Bowl. I did a community law enforcement forum at Ben's Chili Bowl. No white cops showed up. No white cops. And the brothers there, man, was telling it like he was. I got it on tape, man. So when you start talking about the community, they don't invite me out to speak because they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear. I get kind of pissed off when I hear black folks talking about white folks don't like us. Man, white folks love us. They want to be like us. Who do you think is buying all the suntan lotion, which is $1 billion industry? Not black folks, white folks. Who wants to get big butts, big titties, big noses, big lips? White folks, they love us. They steal from us. They steal all our ideas. They steal our soul music. They steal the soul food. And you talking about white folks hate us? No, we don't like each other. That's our problem. We don't like each other. And that's why people have a problem with me, because I love Harold Bell. I love me some Harold Bell. And that's why everything I say about someone on the air or in print, I will say to their face. And that's what it has to be all about, man. These guys running around and hustling us. They hustle us from Clinton to Obama. Now they mad at Trump. Yeah, Trump's got some problems. But we had problems before Donald Trump, man. We had problems before Donald Trump. When you get a chance, I want you to go up on blackmeninamerica.com and get my book about the real deal. About some of these people you see on this book here. There's Red Auerbach, there's Hank Aaron, there's Sugar Ray Leonard, there's Tommy Hearns, there's Jim Brown, Congressman Stokes, Muhammad Ali, Dave Chappelle. I got to tell you that story too. Bert Sugar, my man, Doug Williams, there's Earl Monroe, Big House Gaines. And down in the corner is Richard Nixon, Millhouse Nixon. That's me and my wife at the White House in the late 60s. That's another story. Used to give somebody, I used to caddy for him when I was in high school, living in the projects, trying to make money on the weekends to help my mother. I used to caddy for him out Burning Tree Golf Course, man. And he couldn't play a lick, man. He stayed in the woods more than in the trees more than the birds and bees, man. He was learning with a guy by the name who was a Secretary of State at the time, Bill Rogers, William Rogers, a class act, man. He was teaching the vice president. He was the vice president how to play. And I caddied for him for, a couple of years till I got out of high school. And he went his way and I went my way. I went down to Winston-Salem, played for Big House Gaines, saved my life getting out of this town because I was going to hell in a hurry. My middle school principal, William B. Stinson, told my mom after the third visit, he said, you ain't got to worry about her how much longer. You ain't going to live to get out of high school. And I tried my best to live up to that. But, man, I ran into some great people, man. My high school coach, Dave Brown. Then I ran into Richard Nixon out at Burning Tree, And, of course, I went down Winston-Salem. I didn't graduate. It wasn't Big House's fault. It wasn't the teacher's fault. It was my fault. Because all I was thinking about was playing ball. Playing ball. I could catch the football. Ain't no doubt. And I could shoot the basketball. But I was just a damn fool. Me and Big House stayed in it. We stayed in it. I'm up in his face, man. His house was about 6'6", about 300 pounds. Everybody said, you crazy, man. He'll knock you out. Oh, man. I got in trouble my first year, my freshman year. I flunked out, man. I wasn't thinking about no classes. Flunked out, man. So he came and told me, he said, boy, I'm going to send you back up on U Street. I'm going to send you back up in the ghetto in D.C. Because we ain't got no money to send no dummies to summer school. I said, hey, man, do what you got to do. A couple days later, he comes back in the dorm. He said, son, you will be able to go to summer school. I talked to your coach, Dave Brown, and he sent money down here for you to go to summer school. I said, wow, man. Wow. And guess where I stayed the first couple of weeks down there? I lived in Big House Gaines' house with his wife, Clara, and the two kids. Until he found me a place, man. Ain't no athlete ever lived in Big House Gaines' house. That's my man, I love him. I received the first Clarence Big House Gaines Community Service Award that was ever given in Chicago before he died. Yeah. So, yeah, once again, I want to thank Lavonia and her crew for having me on. And, hey, life's been a ball, man. It's been a blessing, man. And like I said, at 80 years old, I got peace of mind. And that's what it's all about. And it ain't over until the fat lady sings. And once again, this has been the Legends of Inside Sports. And I just want you to remember that every black face you see is not your brother. And every white face is not your enemy. Until next time, I'm Harold Bell, and you can color me gone. And don't forget, go up on Black Men in America and order my new book, Harold Bell's Legends of Inside Sports, My Walk Through Sports History with champions and chumps. I guarantee you, you won't be disappointed. It's been a ball. Until next time. My music won't play for me. It's okay. All right, so long.